Hello, everyone. Today I have with me Miss Ann Bell, who's a love and life coach, and she is here to help you learn all about how to love yourself, to be more present in your relationships, how to achieve success in your dating life, understand your delicious, beautiful body, and so much more, y'all. Her website, which I fucking recommend, is called a confidential conversation.com. That's a confidential conversation.com. It's totally fucking awesome. In this episode, we talk about everything from sex to death to life to fear to large penises and menopause and why some women don't seem to know that they have actually two holes up there in their vagina. So take a listen, got your pen and pad, go to that website and learn some new shit. Hello, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast. I'm your hostess with the mostest. Sit here with my pretty fucking Pride nails. I get ready to ship off to New York for Pride. Fuck, did I say my name is Devana? Yeah, my name is Devana, and I'm here with Ann, good old Ann Bell, who's in upstate New York. Getting ready to do her Pride thing tomorrow too. She's gonna get her Pride on. I got my colorful motherfucking fuck. I think this is Nickelodeon shirt on, and I'm giving you all the colors, all the life, all my fucking who is this? Ren and Stimpy and all kinds of motherfucking 90s. This is a 90s explosion. Do you remember any of these cartoons?
No, no. I do know them, I didn't watch them.
Yeah. Well, let's drop some fucking LSDs and drop some acid, bitch, and watch some cartoons this weekend. How are you doing,
I'm
honey? Are
I'm
you
doing well, I'm doing well, how are you?
fan fucking tastic? Fan fucking tastic. By the power of my rainbow beard, I'm gonna be all right, and so are you, and so is everyone out there.
Yes, yes.
So, y'all, today, dear old Ann is here with us. She is a love and life coach, and I'm gonna let you give like your history of what I pulled from her website, y'all. And her website is called a confidentialconversation.com. A confidentialconversation.com. Very, very interesting website name. The quote I pulled from there, she just says, "My name is Ann Bell, and I'm here to remind women that their needs matter and that they deserve an enjoyable, nourishing sex life." Talk
Yeah.
about what your life's purpose is and why you named your website A Confidential Conversation.
Well, for 26 years now, I've been a licensed massage therapist, and I've had many, many conversations on the table with clients. I don't get clients that just wanna relax. I get clients that wanna talk. So I've had many conversations on the table, and I it's a safe space for people. I actually had a gentleman tell me that one time, is that this is the only place that I feel really safe, that I can express what I wanted. And so I've been having these conversations on the table for a long time with people, and we talk about sex. I'm a sex coach. And so when the pandemic hit and I had to shut my business down, I decided to go back and get recertified in sex, love, and relationships and coaching. And then I just kind of took off with it and was like, I'm headed toward retirement for massage. And I really am picking up speed in coaching going full time. And I believe sex is such an uncomfortable conversation for people that I named it a confidential conversation so they would know that what they tell me is in confidence and it's between us and it goes nowhere. And it helps people realize that they can have these hard, difficult conversations, ask the questions that they want, and get more comfortable about the topic of sex and love. And here I am.
Well stated, mate. Well stated. And so, y'all, in this episode, we're going to be talking all about sex, particularly as geared towards women, because Anne's website is it's not exclusively for women, but there is a heavy, woman's, you know, concerns edge going on there. And we're going to talk about some of the testimonials and some of the success she's had with clients in just a second. So I wanted to echo though, I'm a licensed massage therapist as well.
Are you?
I'm a licensed hypnotist and a couple of other things, a licensed bartender, former drug dealer, bitch. You know. It was what it was, and it is what it is,
But
and
it is.
I did what I did. And so
Every experience gets us where we are now.
whew, by the
They're all valuable.
by the grace of God and his mighty arm and his outstretched hand, Jesus Christ, I put that one thing out of
You
my
you tested them.
sorry, Jesus. Lord. I hear you on shutting your business down for COVID because I closed my massage therapy business down for that exact same reason. And I'm very, very happy to see that you have a soul and a conscience because the government was like, everyone say 6 feet apart, but massage therapists, you can go to work if you want to. And I was like, that don't make no goddamn sense. The fuck do you
Mhm.
mean? Like massage therapy is the antithesis
I'm
of
in your face. Yeah.
the enzo over your body and every goddamn thing. How the fuck do you get 6 feet apart, but massage therapists can go to work? So I said, you know what? This is exactly what they warned us would happen in the ethics portion of our education, that the day would come where you had options on the table that and nobody's going to force you to do the right thing. What will you decide? So the government, and of course, we don't look to the government for morality. The government.
They wanna give it to us, though. They wanna give us their morality, but God forbid.
Oh, fuck no. This is the
Yes.
worst country in the world when it comes to like decent living. And so, in terms of like the way you treat people, hell no. So yeah, so the government was like, "Absolutely, run your business," but, no. I was like, "No, what you're giving me permission to do is wrong, and just because I can doesn't mean I should." And so then I, like you just said, "We're gonna close this shit down because it's not worth killing anybody over."
Well, it's funny because here in New York State, we were mandated. We got hit very hard in the city, and I'm 60 miles north of New York City. So the Governor Cuomo really kinda led the pandemic here, and he had such harsh guidelines for us that it was mandated for us to shut down. And I said, I was scared to death. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to shut it down. And I did for 4 months. I wasn't allowed to open up. But when we reopened, there were a lot of restrictions that I had to follow to reopen. Plus, I did my own research on Facebook. I joined massage groups that had researchers in them. And they were like, we advise you not to reopen, but we understand it's your living. If you're going to do it like this. In fact, I just unmasked as of June 1st. I was still masked. I went mask optional. So that's how long it took me to get comfortable with the pandemic. And if it starts again, like in the fall, I'll go back to masking. I'll in a heartbeat. I told my client, we're going to try it. And if the numbers get bad, we're going right back to masking. So be prepared.
Right? Deal with it, bitch. Ain't nobody about to die because you don't wanna wear a fucking mask. And those
Yes. And
no
those people, I stopped taking new clients because they at the time vaccines were mandated. People didn't want to do it. They didn't want to wear masks. I got tired of talking about it. And I said, you know what? My business, I get to run it how I want, and I don't have to take you as a client. If you're anti-science, anti-everything, you're not in my sphere.
which just means that they're selfish and only think about themselves, which
Ding, ding, ding.
is not something we can undo.
Right.
I now when I meet people like that, which ain't very often because I don't have my consciousness open to that foolishness, but should one try to trickle in, the moment I see that they're about that bullshit, they get dismissed without question, get the fuck out of my life. And I can tell, you can tell by the way people talk, the things they say, the way they put themselves first and everything like that. No more gaslighting. It will not do.
Yeah.
Massage therapists understand the permanence of death because we've had to study the anatomy and the body, and we know, when something infiltrates your body, that shit can take you out. So it's not worth it's just not worth taking unnecessary risks. I know I've lost people to COVID,
Yes.
and unfortunately, some of them worked in the damn medical field. I was like, "Bitch."
That was most astounding to me. That just I have doctors and nurses on my table, and thank God they all were right on target, right on board with everything, but the ones that weren't, I'm like, "Oh." But, I also had the pleasure of working at hospice for 4 years, massaging end of life clients.
Mm,
And that's another eye-opening what a gift that was, being able to help people transition, and that was quite the experience.
that's like a reverse midwife or midwife as you're getting ready to help somebody
Mhm.
to their new life. It's a very special thing to be with somebody at the time of their birth, at the time of their death.
Yes.
You would be greatly honored both in this life and in the one to come for that service which you provided.
Yeah, I found it to be very humbling, and I've had a lot of young deaths in my family, so everybody said to me, "I don't know how you do it," and I'm like, "I don't know how you don't." It just when I was just drawn to it, like, this was a calling of mine. So I just thought it was very precious, and what you get to see at the end of life is astounding.
For instance, what?
You get to see and this is what I found it interesting. Some people that were very faith-based did astonishingly well at the end of life. Others that were They were very fear-based. They did not I had many conversations with people. I'm like, "But you believe, you have faith. Why are you not leaning into your faith?" And they just couldn't because they were afraid to die. Whatever their fear was, their fear overtook their belief in faith. And I found that interesting at times. That was puzzling to me.
Well, let me undo the puzzle for you. Their problem was that they didn't have true religion. They didn't have true faith. They didn't have a true relationship with God. So, like, if somebody, say, is Catholic because their parents were Catholic and they inherit a religion, that is not the same thing as having a personal experience in being born into your relationship with God.
Mm.
And so therefore, when the time of testing comes, you don't have anything true to rely on because whatever their spiritual understanding was nothing more than a hollow shell
Yeah.
because it wasn't lived in the truth, or it was a platitude, a shallow thing. It was ritual based, which has
Mhm.
absolutely nothing to do with worshiping God in spirit and in truth.
Right.
And so, and I've only been around people who have died in the Lord, and they've all just been like, "Bye, bitches, peace out. I'm ready to go." Uh, no, I'm paraphrasing. They didn't say
I
it quite
know.
like that, or they'll say things like they see the angels and stuff like that when they're getting ready to depart, but in fear, never. I've never seen that,
Yeah, I have.
but I've
And
never
it's
been around people who didn't believe. So,
right. And it's interesting because I had this experience with one gentleman, and I would sit at the end of the bed and I was massaging his feet, and I had this big console behind me with the TV. And he was busy talking to somebody, he was doing his thing, and then he would become very lucid and go, "Are you real?" I'm like, "I'm real." And he's like, "Okay." And then he'd go back out and talk to whoever he was talking to. It was the most fascinating thing to watch. And people always are looking up, to the ceiling, to the left or to the right, looking for people. They're, people that are going to come and help them transition over. And people will put balloons up there, plants, because people think they're looking up there. I'm like, they're looking for their loved ones. They're talking, an 80-year-old woman is talking to her mother. The mother's long gone, but she's talking to her deceased mother. So she's seen her. I mean, I've seen this over and over and over, and it's just fascinating, and I just love being part of it and watching it because 'cause they'll whisper, and I'm like, "Oh my God, witnessing." I have the pleasure of seeing. I kind of felt like a voyeur because I am a voyeur, and I'm like, "Oh god, look at this. I'm so in this with these people that I get to witness it with them." So, it was interesting.
There's power, as being a voyeur. You mean like a sexual voyeur?
Well, I'm a voyeur, yes, and
Like sexually
sexually
so.
too, yeah.
So do you know to I mean, in both ways, both spiritually where you're doing it in the sexual world because you add a certain amount of authentication to whatever it is that you're taking the time to witness, you know? So it's like bearing witness to a meaningful thing that's happening, be it a sexual union, and I mean a conscious sexual union, and or somebody when the veil is being torn like that and they're able to the veil is being lifted and they're being able to see to the other side as they're getting ready to transition into a spirit. And so, speaking of sex, so you're a love and sex coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's interesting how we transition from, like, death to sex. I did wait a minute. One thing I do have to say, you said you've seen a lot of young death. This
Yeah,
is something that I try to pound into the ground because most funerals I've been to, and I've been to a fucking lot of them, have been to people between the age of, like, 20 and 40. Okay? It is not old people who die as much as young people. And young people don't know God, they don't pray, they have no spirituality. Now, they just not by and large, their cell phones are their religion, social media is their religion, and young people are rife with insecurity because they have no spiritual center, okay? And I'm happy to hear somebody else say this because it's very difficult for me to drive this point home, it would seem. It is not old people who we see dying a lot. It is young fucking people. So goes it, you know, in the animal kingdom, so goes it here. It's the young ones, the tender animals and birds and creatures that are picked off, and get hurt and don't know how to really function out there in the wild. They get caught up and gobbled up by shit. It's not the old ones. This has been around and know what the fuck's going on.
right.
Problem is the young ones think they know what's going on, they fucking don't know what's going on, that's how they get their asses gobbled up by life. So I was happy to hear you say that too, because I'm like, I know I'm not the only one. My counselor, Evangelist Nelson, a very wise woman, would say that all the time. She was like, "It's the young that's dying, not the old."
Yeah. Yeah, and mine have a lot of my deaths have been very tragic and quick. So there's not been, that goodbye process, that it's happened, it's done. Myself, I've been a widow since I've been 29. So, it was so life altering and changing. One minute you're married and you're on this path, and the next minute you're not, and you're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And I really it was hard for me because I had faith, but I had come away from it. And I then stepped into my spirituality, which was more befitting for me because it was more open, it was more inclusive of everything, and it had less rule for me. And then life started to make some sense. I considered that moment my spiritual reawakening, honestly, of stepping back into who I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if a relationship ends for whatever reason, when we enter into a relationship, as I've learned after this experience I had, you change. If it's over, be it death, I mean, it's a death either way. If you have to break up with somebody,
Yeah, everything's a death. You have to grieve it. Yes.
it's a death and you will change. You're gonna and that's the beautiful thing, when you have I was reading something like Dune Messiah or the Children of Dune, and I'm fucking obsessed with Dune. As I was like reading the books, and one of the lead characters is going through changes and becoming something he's never been before,
Mhm.
physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And he was saying in there like the beautiful thing about when the paths in front of you are all unknown, that's how you change. That's evolution. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what steps I'm taking next. Well, that's called growth.
But a lot of it's that frightens a lot of people. That to look in the mirror and go, "Oh my god, I don't like what's happening right here with me." I'm not 100% in love with me, but and how do I change this? Everybody you can have awareness, but if you don't have action to step into it, and I think that's where people get the disconnect, is they look and go, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, I can't do anything," and they step back into who they were, and there's no growth for them. And growth is certainly not linear. It's up and down, around, a spiral. It goes in all different directions.
God has not given, but God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I can't counsel or coach nobody apart from God and spirituality because that is the life I have known. That is where I draw strength from. I guess if I drew it from the fucking plant or something like that, then I would be quoting the plant. And I don't know plants that way. I know how I've grown and overcome. I'm saying all that to say fear is an evil emotion. It's an evil vibration. It's crippling and it doesn't serve people in any way. And I know that there's a lot of fear for people. People, whenever you do crack open your dusty ass Bible and finally read it, okay, or go into an app when you reach for your phone, actually read a scripture instead of whatever sort of filth you're getting into on your phone. Pay attention to how much the Bible actually talks about fear. It's not in there just to be arbitrary. That God is trying to work with you on that fear. Be very, very careful about fear. You know, just try to let it go. Like it's not gonna help you. So when you were talking about sex earlier, about how uncomfortable it is, like why you named, your website so that people can be comfortable and they know the conversation is going to be confidential. One thing that I would like to say before we hear about your client success stories is I have a real big issue with how much people are willing to do sexual things, but then they don't know how to verbalize. This fucks up relationships because you have people having sex and doing things, but it's very difficult in the relationship for someone to vocalize their sexual wants and needs. In families, okay, where parents are supposed to be teaching children about sex and everything like that, what you get is, okay, the kid can go and do whatever, we're not gonna restrict them, but then there's not really actual dialogue about the dick and the vaginas and condoms and what happened when you went out and what was going on that experience. So there's not enough conversation in the families about sex, and I mean true gritty, down to the dick and balls of it all, okay,
Yeah,
conversation.
we have zero or little sex education between family, between school. I mean, there's so many rigid minds out there that you can't talk about sex with anybody. And this is where we go, and people are desperate, and they get their lessons from porn, their friends, and the friends know hardly anything more than they do. And porn, I have nothing against porn, but people have to realize porn is acting. They are characters that are scripted. There's no kissing, there's no hugging, there's no intimacy. They're just having sex. And young people are looking at this and thinking this is how you have sex. And it is so wrong.
It's so bad. It's
It
so bad.
you're just not gonna learn from porn. And then they get disappointed because, their partner doesn't wanna do all these things. And I'm like, "Of course they don't. You're having no consent, no conversation." They don't wanna do it. It's frightening to them. You have to talk about it. You talk about it before you have sex. And here's the other thing. I'm reading this great book about sexual intelligence, and he's like, "Let's get normal off the table, because what's normal for me is not gonna be your normal. So let's take it out. And what is sex to you? How is it to have enjoyable, filling, nourishing sex? What does that mean?" And everybody's going to answer that differently.
What's the name of the book you're reading?
Sexual Intelligence by Dr. Marty Klein.
Okay, thank you.
He's written a lot of books. He's fabulous.
What
He's sex therapist for over 30 years, so
There's some fabulousness, darling. Yeah. So I heard you mention like church and I mean school. I know I'm not sure if you said church. I don't believe it's the school's responsibility or the church's responsibility to teach children about how to have sex and what it's supposed to mean. I think that squarely falls on the parents, period. Now, maybe somebody's in a single situation, or maybe a kid is caught up in the system and they don't have parents. Okay, come on in school, come on in church, come on in some fucking body. But from the beginning, under most usual circumstances, but it's for the parents to do because a kid is going to listen to their parents or should listen to their parents more so than they do any other voice. Because the kids around them, for God's sakes, he was rolling around his mom's stomach for 9 months. Their bond should be stronger than for that kid to go out and learn more from pornography than he can from his mother. Okay,
but what happens if the parents don't talk about sex?
I
What
know
happens if they don't show
that's
anything affection?
that's my point. That's my entire point. It should be that way, but it's not.
Yes.
And I learned from porn too. I don't watch porn anymore. And because I've stepped away from it entirely. So that means no Twitter porn, no, I don't go on sex apps and none of that because I had to learn who I was. I realized from a child, my parents didn't teach me about sex. I did learn from gay.com and Grinder and Pornhub and XNXX and all the damn websites. And I was like, well, fuck, this is somebody else's script playing in my head. And then the only way for me to get my own voice was to let all of those voices go and enter this strange void where I don't have my usual creature comforts available to me. Now I'm discovering who I am. It was only uncomfortable for a moment, and then I
Correct.
saved myself and I gained joy, true joy. You won't actually turn into a jack-o'-lantern if you don't have sex. You
Right.
won't turn into a jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin if you don't watch porn. You're actually going to be all right.
Of course. But, here's the other thing though. To know how your body functions, for me, self-pleasuring masturbation is mandatory. How are you gonna get pleased your partner to show your partner how to please you if you don't know how to please yourself? I think it's too much responsibility to give your partner that to find out what makes you tick. You can do that jointly, but you have to have some basic knowledge of how your body works. And the way through that is self-pleasuring.
And once you learn about yourself, then you're better equipped to enter into a loving, intimate relationship
Yes.
because then you can communicate what you want because you know what you want while you're discovering with the person, but you have a strong foundation. Watching other people in porn does not teach you about you.
No. No. It teaches you nothing. Just you're watching acts of sex that are scripted. That's not one continuous flow either. They stop, they do, body fluids happen, they clean it up and they get it going. But people don't realize that's the process of porn. They just think it's one fluid, it's all scripted. And when you talk about relationships, when you're in relationship or before you're in relationship, there's nothing wrong with talking about sex. Before what do you like in sex? Is sex important to you in a relationship? These are questions you want to ask ahead of time because if the partner, your potential partner is saying, "No, it's really not important," and it's important to you, that might be a red flag for you. It might be like, all right, well, I really, want this aspect in my life. And maybe this is not the partner for me if they don't want to have sex. So you ask these things ahead of time. There's nothing wrong with when you're discovering each other to have those conversations. You should have conversations about sex before you have sex. Unless
Now,
it's just a one nighter or a hookup, then go at it.
well, I'm not a proponent of one nighters or hookups because of the spiritual exchange that happens
Mhm.
when people have sex. And I feel like a little part of you dies if you cheapen yourself for a one night stand or a hookup. Because when you sacrifice intimacy and your soul was made for intimacy, true sex is like a Ferrari hookups and one night stands are like, I don't know, a cheap rental car.
It's true, but, there's phases of development, and sometimes that they're included in that phase. Some people, again, this is where what's good for you might not be what's for others. If you're going through that phase, you might have to go through that phase and realize just what you said. "Oops, this is not something I wanna do, but I've tried it, and I don't need to keep having that experience." And
I've
there's nothing wrong with it.
Of course, I mean, I'm not judging. Of course, I went through it. That's why I know it's bullshit.
Dang, me too.
That's
But we speak from experience. But if for younger ones to hear us, they might be like, "Ah, here, listen to these two," but they might have to go through it. Or there might be the person that goes, "You know what? I agree with those two. I feel the same way. I'm so happy I heard this podcast because that's how I feel, and I'm not going to compromise myself."
so
So
yeah, search your feelings. You know how you really feel after a cheap one night stand. You know how you really feel, like when no one else is around. Like you know how you really feel, and it's usually not like brimming with joy. Like in the moment of the sexual experience, so those are just physical, sensual emotions. That has, sensual feelings. That has nothing to do with like your true internal dialogue.
Mhm.
Which is hurt like a child in a fetal position. Compare and contrast a loving relationship, whether it's with multiple people or one, and you have dialogue before sex. You talk about things like aftercare, like you actually give a damn about the person, and you get all the intense things that comes along with the actual act of intercourse too. True conscious thinking sex is like a full course meal.
Yes.
Okay. As opposed to a snack at a buffet.
Yes. It's not just dessert, right. It
No.
has all the courses
It's
in it.
all the courses, all the courses. So what are we saying, y'all? We want y'all to become mindful in the way you go about sex. Stop cheapening yourself for cheap thrills. Honor who you are. Remember your divinity, and understand and come into the knowledge of why you have sex, what it means. Learn all about the spiritual exchanges and things like that.
Right.
And
And I'm so glad you mentioned mindfulness because there's so many people that are in the act and they're focused on their to-do list and what has to be done, and that takes away from your intimate encounter. If you can, put it to the side, but really stay present with your partner and watch your sex bloom. Watch your intimacy bloom.
right. And so, and y'all, the conversation about sex, texting people doesn't count, in my opinion, unless you
Right.
already have an established relationship with them. Going onto sex apps and hookup apps, quote unquote dating apps, which are really just sex fuck apps or whatever, lining up the sex you're going to have through that technological device is not the same as a verbally talking and getting all the emotions mixed in.
Yes.
The more
You
you right, the more you talk, go ahead, what you gonna say?
You lose the tone, you lose the emotion behind all of it, yes.
You lose all of that. People in relationships cannot look at a partner that they have and go, I would like you to suck my dick tonight or nibble on this or twist this way. They can't say it because they've been typing it in a phone. So that muscle is not developed.
Right.
So so y'all just think about how you're hurting yourself with what you're doing. So now tell us about those testimonials. Some of these clients you've worked with. Give me like the before and after.
Well, one client I recently had, we had a brief conversation, and I had given her some materials to read, yada, 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 and I asked her a question that really stumped her, and I said to her, "What type of relationship do you want?" And she got very quiet and she says, "I have never asked that of myself." And this is what I find of people, especially women. We're worried about, does he like us? Will he ask us back out again? We're worried about them more than, did we like him? What does he fit our needs? So I think it's interesting to ask ourselves the questions, what do we need from a relationship before that happens? So it was so profound for her because she never asked herself that question. And she was 64 years old.
Okay, why do I feel like I just took a shot of tequila when you told me 64? It's like,
It's like the boomer generation of the boomer generation, we
right.
didn't talk about it. And this is what, it's if you learned it through osmosis. And this is what I'm finding. I have a lot of boomer women that, and it's funny. I was on a podcast and one woman said to me, something, she's like, I've got to ask you this real risque question. I said, "What?" She said, "What do you think of, women 60 and over that they're no longer there's not a lot of males partners around. What do you think about them exploring with women?" I'm like, "Oh my god, go for it." I mean, who cares? So it's very fascinating to me how many limits people put on their sexuality with partners, with people and genders and what's the normal? Here we go back. I can't do that because that doesn't fit normal society. And that's where we go back to what we learned as children. Who's in our heads running the show? Parents, society, religion, school,
Born.
porn, so you have to go back to those limiting beliefs and see where you're at with it.
Well, I'm so fucking glad that this woman got her breakthrough at the age of 64. Hopefully she lives to 100 so that she can have her a good, what is that, 26, 36 fucking years to like twirl around and, try some shit.
I just had another conversation with another woman that's around the same age, and she was in a sexless marriage. He was narcissistic, abusive. She says, "I'm done. I want the next phase of my life. I want pleasure. I want pleasure. I want love. I want sex. I want kindness." And she says, "I am so ready for it." So it doesn't matter the age. It just matters that you're worthy of it and you're deserving of it.
She wants all the things and I pray she get it. She really can't have it though. She really can't have it.
Y
So what's the youngest person you've ever worked with and what's the oldest?
Youngest, probably in their 20s, you know, in their 20s, went through cancer and, you know, and she was debilitated, it was cervical cancer. So, a lot of surgery, a lot of cancer treatment, radiation damage. So, we worked through some of that coaching and the whole process with her so that she can, have the love and sex that she deserves at a young age. The oldest, I don't know, I have a 79-year-old. They're so cute. It's they're very active. She goes, my husband's knee, his hip, my arm. We make it work though. We find positions that just work for it. I mean, it's so cool.
That's so fucking like New York. That is so fucking New York. My knee, my hip. But we're making it work. We're making it fucking work. That's what we do. That's what the fuck we do up here.
Well, we're New Yorker. We make it work. So it's just, and everything in between. But it's just interesting. It can be very simple conversations. Uh, People just need to vent. Like, and the first woman I was telling you about, she has a therapist. She says to me, "I can't talk to my therapist about sex." And I'm like, "Why?" Get it. But people have it in their minds. And because I'm a sex coach and a love coach, it gives them permission. I give permission to people to talk with me. Okay, great. Talk to me. Because you know what? I love I love exploring. I love giving new information, new ideas. I love inspiring. I love giving you permission to go ahead and have the sex you want. Talk to me. Tell me your story. I love it.
I love it too. You're very approachable. But then now, y'all, we're not saying go out there and have sex with who you want, however you want, and just run through the city without, no, 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 no. We are saying, yes, be conscious about it, be respectful, go at it to contribute positive energy, you know, and so in every good thing with every kind of good intention as you explore yourself and respect other people and their wishes, not putting yourself in danger, anyone else in danger.
Yes.
So
It's
just be
you
free.
just be smart, be conscious, be mindful, be respectful of yourself, but go out there and seek what you want. It's there. You're
Yeah.
you're deserving of it.
Right. And so now on her website, a confidentialconversation.com, very pretty website. I love the rose palettes and
Mhm.
everything sprinkled throughout. Her packages, they start with like an introductory one for $29 and they go up from there. There's all kinds of like delicious little things for like every budget. So check out the website for sure. Let me transition over to her blog. She has quite a titillating blog that's most interesting as well. Mm. Some of the topics range from a menopause to another one is titled The Vulva or the Vagina, which is which. That reminds me of that scene from Orange is the New Black where the girls didn't know that women have like an actual pee hole that's
Yeah.
separate from the vagina hole. Then it was like a whole thing. You know
People
what?
they don't know their anatomy.
Since it came up, do you mind explaining the fact, just in case there's another woman out there who's not aware of the fact that she actually has 2 holes in that area. Could you explain that, please?
Here you have the vagina, and then you have, oh my god, it's not the ureters, this is what menopause does to you. Where your urine comes out, you have
Like
that
the
hole.
urethra?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
And but then you have the Skene's glands that actually where women that, squirt, female ejaculation, that's where that comes from. So, it's a very interesting take a look, girls, women, people with vulvas. Take a look at yourself. It's very, very interesting. Know your anatomy.
Thank you for that breakdown. Anne has resources on her website too. It's a very inclusive website to include terminology. She explains to you on her website what a drag queen is, what a drag king is, transvestite, crossdresser, transgender, transmasculine, transfeminine, femme and butch. The woman is open-minded, y'all. And
I am.
now my favorite blog is titled Penis 101. And oh, I should have brought for glasses. There's a huge banana coming out of this man's pants on this website, and I'm gonna read this here. It it says, "For the longest" I'm reading from Anne's website at confidentialconversation.com. This blog is called Penis 101. Here I go. "For the longest time, this apparatus was frightening for me. I grew up in a family with all girls. My father was a conservative man, so we never saw him in other than his work clothes, shorts, and long johns. Plus, the toilet seat was never up, which was a point of contention in my marriage. I never can understand it to this day. Anyhow, the penis was a the penis was a stranger to me until it wasn't.
Ah.
I, I have heard tell. I have heard tell of women being very scared. Tina says, having grown up with one, this is something that I don't have functioning in my mind. Because women are not used to something going from like this squishy piece of flesh to this long, hard thing.
Mhm.
Some of them can go from like an inch soft to like over 14, 17 inches long hard. It's like a fucking
Yes.
metamorphosis happening in front of this woman. And if it's her first time, God, can you imagine a girl, her first dick is like a 17 incher? If you tell the girl,
Like, I once had this is a funny story. I once had a guy, he was 10 inches. I looked at him, he looked at me, he goes, "No." I'm like, "Yeah, no."
this little girl, yeah, yeah. The longest I've had the pleasure of dealing with was 17 inches, and I haven't seen any longer than that.
Oh.
And so
You go. I actually had a conversation with a guy one time about having a large penis, and he says, "Look, it's really not a joy for him because," he says, I have to be very mindful. I can't thrust how I want because I'm gonna hurt you." He says, it really is sometimes a hindrance with it." And I found that interesting. I'm like, "Oh, I never thought from that perspective." His, that it wasn't a total joy for him too
oh,
at
yeah.
times.
Because men with, like, super long dicks like that can't really get, like, balls deep. That's a pleasure that's elusive for them, generally speaking.
Yes.
So if they're getting their dick sucked, getting deep throated, it gets further it gets further out of r it's harder to find somebody who's able to do that. Like, those
Right.
pleasures are not as accessible,
Mhm.
as you might think. Again, you see the big dicks glorified in porn, but since it's acting, they already know who can handle those sizes, who
Yes.
anatomically can handle those sizes, and things like that. So, no, they have men with oversized dicks have like a lot of. It's like people who are really tall.
Yes.
So is it really glorified? It's lonely at the top.
Yes. There's nothing that fits them. They're
Right.
so tall that they can't even get a bed, that fits them. Yes. Yes.
So be thankful with what y'all have, and be thankful with what you work with. I have had as little as 2 inches, okay, and I've had as
Mhm.
long as 17. And what I'm thankful with myself that my dick is, like, in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not neither too much nor too little. No one should be running away, but ain't nobody gonna be disappointed either. You know what?
Right.
I'm fucking happy with these odds.
That's what it is. I don't think most women are size queens. I really don't. Because we know what we have. I mean, the average penis is 5.5 inches long, hard. So that's what we're dealing with. And that's just fine because it's so not about the penis, because average intercourse penis and vagina sex is 5.2 to 5.7 minutes. A woman takes 20 to 30 minutes to orgasm. So do the math. For her, it's about other things, foreplay, oral, whatever's going on. So, and I can't stress enough lubrication, 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 people. Not everybody, it doesn't mean you're excited if a woman doesn't get wet. It's such a misnomer that, "Oh, I'm not there's something wrong with me." No, that's your anatomy. Just that's how you function.
Oh, you're fucking
Some
dehydrated.
some get wetter than the others. Some don't get wet. It doesn't mean they're not excited. So get the lubrication out, people.
Mhm. It's a good old spit. Just spit on it. Fuck, I love that shit. I fucking love that shit. And so, yeah, within this blog, Anne breaks down, what the shaft is, the corona glands, the frenulum, the meat, it's the foreskin, the fucking scrotum. So, in case you have never seen a dick before, go to this blog. She talks about condom use. She goes over the generalizations about men, testosterone, of men being more visual. So, basically, Anne is helping you to think, about penises, and especially if you've never come across them. Hell, even if you are a man, perhaps struggling with toxic masculinity, if perhaps you can come and take a look at this and get a new point of view. And so I do like the way that you're challenging people through your website. So that's a
Mm,
good thing.
thank you, thank you. And what my next project is, I finally found my models. I am making a couples massage video for people to learn how to massage each other at home. And I'm very, very excited. And that's going to include the vulva and the penis massage in it, which is very, very interesting to watch and see that happen. So that's my new project within the next couple months that's coming.
Damn it. I wish I'd have known you were looking for models for that son of a bitch. Like, sign me up. Well, look, if you ever get ready to do like a queer version of that, though,
Okay.
consider
I'll
myself to
keep
be
you in
very
mind.
I'm very, like, homo flexible, though. I would love to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and a trans gender person. All
Ding, ding,
I
ding.
want the trifecta. If there's anybody out there interested in that sort of dynamic, do cool, do cool.
So now you would call that you're pansexual. You're open to all of it.
Look, my favorite line from the movie Girls Trip with all those beautiful women hanging down here in New Orleans. Down in New Orleans, she was like, "You know what? You really can have it all."
Mhm.
But consciously, prayerfully, thoughtfully,
Yes,
you know, putting, with balance, of course. Got the energy's got to balance out and be right. No quickies, no one night stands, none of that. But I'm talking about relationships with these people, not a fucking orgy.
right.
Like, I mean, if we all want to do, it, I mean, that's fine. But with first love, respect, seeing eye to eye, having that emotional connection and that spiritual connection. So I'm going to read this something that you wrote. So self love means having a high regard for your own well being and happiness. It means taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well being to please others. Of course, your needs will include your sexual pleasure. Talk to us about self love. This one stood out to me because a lot of the world's problems stem, as Blaise Pascal said, from people's inability to sit still, alone, quiet in a room. And this is because people are not in love enough with themselves to just be with themselves. Therefore, they need to go out and find all kinds of things to engage in, be it with sex with other people, drugs, alcohol, work, children, whatever kind of distraction can distract them from the solitude of self. Talk to us about the importance of self love and how things can go so terribly wrong should this not be present.
I think it's gonna get I always go back. We have to go back to go forward. So you have to go back to childhood and see where what happened there. Did you get the love you needed? Did you get the care? Did you get the nurturing? Because that's when our addictive patterns come in, when we're not treated as we should be. When you're constantly needing the dopamine hit, the phone, the porn, when you don't allow yourself to be regulated, I think our children today are very busy. They're busy from school to activities to this to that. So children don't know how to relax and be on their own and be bored and be creative. There's always they don't play outside. So they're missing a lot of things, looking for the dopamine hit. I gotta have the hit, gotta have the hit, some form of it. So I think when you can sit by yourself, when you can tolerate that, and start to become your own best friend and start asking yourself the questions. What is it do I need to have a good day? What is it that will bring me pleasure? Not just sexual pleasure, but pleasure in general. Go out and take a walk in nature. That's how you get grounded the quickest. Meditation, journaling, exercise, things that make eating right, things that make you whole as a person. These are the things that is self-love.
As Mama RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, and the hell you gonna love anybody else? And I get
Yes.
an amen up in here.
But sometimes if we only have a glimpse of it, that's when we get into intimate relationships and even friendships, we get into relationships with others, and we learn and we grow with each other. Relationships are very mirroring for things that we need to grow inside ourselves. So that will also happen. So you don't have to be 100% ready to be in a relationship, but do have some sort of foundation of self-love.
Well, it sounds like in that case, you have to be open to being challenged.
Yes,
Yeah, so you
because
can't
that's what relationships will bring.
challenge. So you can't be like, you know, bucking up against resistance. Like you have to appreciate that resistance, growth, and not take it as a personal hit if your partner should challenge you in some way.
Right, but that's where couples go wrong because they do take it. And
personal.
that's yes, and that's where, help is needed.
Mm.
Help.
Help is on the way. You better call Ann up. Let's see. So let me see. I'm gonna read this other line from you. It says, "Intimacy is getting to know another person through their emotions that make us truly feel connected. Physical intimacy is exploring yourself and each other." You pose a question in my research of you. Do you feel comfortable revealing all parts of yourself to another? So I sense in this question and in this statement that there's a danger, and people tend to only bring a portion of themselves to the table in a relationship. Can you talk to us about what happens if a person is going to have one toe in, one toe out, and have this fear mixed in, revealing their all parts of themselves? Why should we bring all parts of ourselves into the relationship and be okay revealing that?
Well, first you have to have a sense of safety. If you don't feel safe with your partner, if you don't feel protected, you're not going to reveal everything. And that you have to ask why. Why is that happening? Because if you have one foot in, one foot out, your partner knows that, and the relationship will not fully move forward in the direction you want because neither one of you are being honest and true. And you both know it. And you'll blame each other. Well, it's him, it's her, it's them, it's they. And it's really you. You could be closed off. You could be, life is about you. Life is about your growth first. I mean, I believe that's why I'm here is to become the best person version of myself that I can be. And then I can help others. But I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly reading. I constantly challenge myself because I'm only going to take people as far as I'm willing to go. So if I'm not willing to challenge myself, I'm only going to attract a certain level of person that I can help.
Mhm.
So even in your relationship, you challenge, you grow, you ask questions, you have the hard conversations, even if they're uncomfortable, instead of letting them fester and become a problem.
Communication is key. Once we reveal those pesky little devils, then we can run them off. But if
Yes.
not, they'll just sit there and fuck everything up.
Yes.
And then y'all, you can only take so much. Eventually, you will reach critical mass and have a breaking point, and then the shit's gonna all go down in flames anyhow. So either talk about the elephant in the room and the things that are bothering you, and you'll find you can clear up so much if you just talk about it. None of this really has to be a problem.
Right. And
If
just know the first time is awkward. It's uncomfortable. You won't do it right. You'll say things. It's okay. You can go back and repair. That's how a couple survives, is how they repair as a couple. That's the most crucial thing is after argument, how do you repair and move forward?
and you have to be sure you're in a relationship with somebody who is dedicated to the truth, who does not have a negotiable relationship with the truth, and that who is dedicated to letting go of resentment, and who is dedicated to forgiveness. Because after an argument, a key tenet, in my opinion, is forgiveness and not holding on to that. So we shouldn't be in a position where, 7 months down the road, you're having an argument, somebody's bringing up old shit. So you got to be willing to let go. So I hear
Mhm.
you with the heal after the argument. So I just wanted to bring up that you got to be big on forgiveness and not holding on to resentments and being fully truthful.
Yeah. Yes.
So the last one I'm going to read before we switch over to our dad jokes is it says the moment you were willing the moment you and another are willing to be yourself in order to get to know each other, do you feel confident in your dating skills? Are you getting the results you want in finding your partner? So let's shift gears from talking about people in relationships for a moment to people who are looking. Okay. You did touch on this just a second ago, though, when you said you don't have to be fully, fully in love with yourself, on the journey. But let's take it like a step further. People who are not confident in their dating skills, what are some of the reasons besides self-love? I mean, what if somebody has self-love going on and there's some other issue? What are some of the issues that you've seen people struggle with that make them stumble in dating?
I think it's their mindset and their limiting beliefs. It's the willingness. The word willingness is crucial. The word, to challenge yourself, to look at a belief. Is it still working? If you believe whoever you're dating, the other is they're all taken, the good ones are taken, there's no good ones out there. You have to challenge that belief. That's a limiting belief because guess what? You're going to continue attracting people that are not available for you because it matches your beliefs. So you have to be willing to go, okay, that's a limiting belief. How can I reframe that? There are good people out there to date. Where can I look for them? But until you shift the mindset, you're going to continually attract the unavailable. So it really begins there.
Preach it past the bell. Hallelujah. You know, I said we're gonna do the dad jokes, but no, there is one word I wanted to mention, then we will do the dad jokes, and that
Okay.
dad jokes, and that's called menopause. I wanna bring that up because I come across so many women who are experiencing this, and they all tell me the same thing, that they feel like they're burning up, they're hot, and they just wanna go stand in a deep freezer that's like negative 100 degrees, and that be fine for them. And so, since this is such like an issue, can you talk to us about the age range for menopause, what it is, why y'all are overheating like Godzilla when he's getting ready to go on thermonuclear and burn Tokyo to the ground just by heat blast? And I don't mean that insultingly, but I'm like,
It's our body doing its changes. We can start as early as 35 to come into perimenopause, and it can last 10, 15 years, menopause. So when full menopause is 1 year and 1 day with no period, then you're in menopause. But what's happened, and there's a lot of menopause symptoms, and I've taken a deep dive into menopause. But what happened to us boomers, we had studies that came out and took away our hormones. So hormone replacement therapy wasn't as accessible to us, but now there's so many new studies. Ladies, go get your hormones. Yeah, there's no reason to suffer. Vaginal estrogen, there is no reason to suffer. Get your hormones and get this under control. Diet, exercise, there's many doctors that are specializing in it now, and they're starting to really educate women about how safe it is in general. Every case is different, but most women under 60, it is safe to have hormone replacement therapy. If you told a man he couldn't have testosterone and his dick didn't work without his testosterone, and he had to have it the rest of his life, he'd be on that testosterone. Women were shamed, were made to feel like you have to be on estrogen, you have to be on we have testosterone too. You have to be on progesterone? Yes. You have to be on the rest of your life? Why the fuck not? It is safe. Why would we go through this? I would never go through this again without hormones. I'm too old right now, but I cannot tell you. Take the deep dive, educate yourself because your gynecologist more than likely does not know.
that you had me at why the fuck not? So wait, let me get this straight. You said if a woman goes a year and a half without a period, she's in menopause. So you
No, 1 year and 1 day.
oh,
So
1 year
it's
and 1 day.
366 days without a period.
So then y'all go from having to deal with periods every month of your life since adolescence, and then a year after that, you enter right into menopause?
No, when you start to become perimenopause, your cycle can change. You can go months without getting a period, and then it'll come. You can get what happened to me, I went 11 months without a period. That 12th month, I got a period. I had to go another whole year before I was in menopause in 1 day. Then finally, I had a late menopause. I was 56 when I stopped having my period. Average age is 51 when you're in menopause.
Okay. How long does menopause last?
It can last. I'm still having hot flashes. I'm still yes. My older sister's 68. She still has hot flashes. So they ebb and flow. It just depends on your biology, your chemistry, what's happening, if you got your hormones or not. We didn't get hormones, so yes, it is. I look at menopause as a spiritual reawakening for women. This is the time in life where you've been a mother, a wife, you've had your career, you're caretaking for parents, you've done everything. And this is the time in your life like, what about me? I've given, given, given. What about me? When do I get a turn to receive? And this is what I feel menopause is for women, is a rebirth. I think it is for men too. They just do it differently. But if you look at menopause at this part of your life, that's what's happening, then it gets very interesting. And then it can get more meaningful instead of just, symptoms.
Hmm. I remember I from studying in my massage therapy course about the menstrual cycles and how they can be guided or by the phases of the moon and things like that. And so I'm saying that to say I think I agree with you in terms of the spirituality of it all. And I think the changes that women go through from that menstrual cycle on up is very spiritual. I think
Yes.
women are held spiritual in a lot of spiritual circles that I run in. Women are known to be stronger than the males. Women are known to be more in tuned, to be more sensitive, to be more capable. Okay. In a lot of ways. I wouldn't mind if the whole script in this country flipped and women ran everything because it would be led with more intention, more emotion, that maternal mixture that helps everybody feel all warm and cozy anyway. I've always loved having a woman boss.
We well, so that's what the pagan days were about, women power. And then Christianity came along.
And fucked everything up.
Yes.
So I'm here for it. Girl power, woman power. Men have done a bang up job of driving this country into hell. And so and really, really the world. So I'm ready for y'all to just have more.
Yeah. We
I'm
need
real.
we need to step up and really be able to participate more. And then we could solve, I think, a lot more problems.
Mhm. So, y'all, we've talked about sex and testosterone and porn and coming up out of that, and dicks and penises and menopause and all kinds of delicious things, and being mindful and conscious in sex, and for fuck's sake, talking to your love partners rather than just doing, so that
Yeah.
you can have a more fulfilled experience. Ann Bell can be your coach in that, and I'm gonna give all of y'all her information, after I tell these 3 dad jokes, and
All
then
right.
out the show. Today's dad jokes are from parade.com. This first one is actually technically considered a mom joke, which is a thing. So, then
I'm
I
really bad at jokes, but go ahead.
we'll see. I believe in you, and I'm gonna coach you through this thing. See what I did there? It's a what did the baby corn say to the mama corn?
I don't know. Tell me.
Well, when he was looking for his dad, what did the baby corn say to the mama corn when he was looking for his dad?
I told you I'm very bad at this. Tell me.
He said he said, "Where's the popcorn?"
Oh, God. Corny.
It is.
Oh, God.
Okay. How does a cucumber become a pickle?
Oh, I've heard this one. Mm, I don't know, though.
It has to go through a jarring experience.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, last one. Why can't Disney's Elsa from Frozen ever have a balloon?
Oh, I don't even know why.
Oh, just think about it. What's the worst thing you can do to a balloon
You pop it.
besides pop it?
Mm, blow it.
Well, the balloon might not mind that. Yeah, she can't have a balloon because she will let it go, let it
Oh,
go.
yeah. See, I told you I'm bad at this shit. I'm the girl that laughs at the jokes 10 minutes down the line at the comedy club. He's like, "You just got that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did."
Well,
Oh,
you know what? At
well.
least you got it at all.
Yeah.
Elsa said, "Balloons never bothered me anyway." All right, y'all. Love and sex coach Ann Bell is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Her website for the 15,000th time is aconfidentialconversation.com. And any last words you have to the world? Thank you for being such an incredible guest. I'll let you close out the show. Say whatever you want.
I think go out, you're deserving, you should have the love and sex life that you want. Do it safely, kindly, but go get it.
And that's it. Thank you for coming on the show. I will see you next time, my dear friend. Thank you all so much for taking time to listen to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast. It really means everything to me. Look, if you love the show, you can find more information and resources at sexdrugsandjesus.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Feel free to reach out to me directly at Devanin at sexdrugsandjesus.com and on Twitter and Facebook as well. My name is Devanin. It's been wonderful being your host today. And just remember that everything is going to be all right.